We're back here on the platform this evening, and we are speaking with Vivian Whylly today. And Mr. Whylly, it's a pleasure to have you here. We've done a number of these programs dealing with Nygad Key and the machinations of Mr. Louis Bacon. But in addition to fighting the government of the Bahamas here and Nygad, he is also taking a matter to New York since he was not able to produce certain evidence here. He is also using the New York court against Nygad, isn't he?
Yes, and California and Canada.
Why?
Because Mr. Louis Bacon is a man who thinks like he's the master of everybody else.
Of all he surveys?
Yes. Mr. Jones Louis Bacon has gone ahead and he has actually decided that he was going to buy stolen information from a gentleman who used to work with Nygad, Mr. Nygad. Stole Mr. Nygad's information. Mr. Nygad paid for the camera, he paid for the tape, he paid his time. The gentleman said he traveled all around the world with him. He couldn't do it on his own. But Mr. Louis Bacon and his cronies were able to influence this gentleman to release Mr. Nygad's tape to them. That is how desperate Louis Bacon and Save the Bays have become. In Canada, in California, in New York, and in the Bahamas, this man, all of the tapes, over 1,000 hours of videotapes and more, and pictures, he turned over to Louis Bacon, who turned it over to his lawyers, who asked a judge in New York to admit stolen information as evidence.
It couldn't happen in the Bahamas.
That's why he did not file this lawsuit in the Bahamas, because the young man who stole the information knows that he would have gotten locked up for stealing by reason of employment. That's what we call it here in the Bahamas. If he wasn't the videographer for Mr. Nygad, who was paying him a salary, taking him around the world with him, and treating him very well. The gentleman said he came to the Bahamas without a work permit, and the people stopped him at the airport, and Mr. Nygad made a call, and everything was cool. That, instead of him taking that as a positive, Louis Bacon is trying to say, see, Peter Nygad has influence. When you are a friend of Mr. Bacon, when you befriend black people, which I'm sure you don't have a lot of as friends, black people are very loyal, extremely loyal, Mr. Jones. And that is why we're standing up for Mr. Nygad. Mr. Nygad, I saw the tape with Toriano Johnson and Carlos, and I was like, wow. Mr. Nygad, the young man said, he changed my life. That is what Peter Nygad does. 2 Julys ago, July before the last one, when we were having the Independence Regatta for the first time in Clifton Bay, where Save the Bays could have come in and joined with the festivities and the fun, they decided to stay back and protest a legitimate use of Clifton Bay by black Bahamian people. See, there's a pattern here, Bahamas. There is a pattern. Think about this, Bahamas. How old were you when you went behind the gates in Lightfoot Key? I know I was 40. 40 years.
40 years old.
40 years old.
How you got behind the gates?
Believe it or not, I was invited to a meeting at Louis Bacon's house.
That's the first time you went.
The first ever time that I went into Lightfoot Key was to a meeting with a Bahamian lawyer who knows who he is, okay, and was told not to tell anybody else from the coalition.
But you did tell someone.
Well, I told them afterwards, because there was not only one meeting, there were subsequent visits to that house.
So what were these meetings about?
The meetings were about our quest to find reasonable ways to stop the Clifton Key development. The Lightfoot Key property owners did not want the Clifton Key developers. They didn't want that because that was right across the bay from them. And from then to now, Louis Bacon has been trying to control the land that is the park. Part of his problem, Mr. Bacon's problem, is I saw him before he saw me. I was able to see his point of view not being congruent with mine because he's looking at me as a stupid black boy. And that's how I felt then. But I know now that I was not wrong in my estimation of him. Be careful. When this man then finish with you, he's gonna try and throw you away. And exactly that happened. But children in the Bahamas, I got a very good education from St. John's College, subsequently Grand Valley State College, and I was always good in history. And I learned about mindsets like Louis Bacon. The root of his genealogy, you can look it up, takes you back to a notorious organization in the United States that sole function was to take back the 40 acres and the mule from the Negroes that was given to them.
That was the sole purpose.
That's why those men came together. They came together to take back the 40 acres and the mules from coloreds and blacks. They are Jim Crow. You go to a restaurant, front door, see the big sign, whites only. You got to go around the back. You go to the toilet, whites only, blacks over there. They are people who have the DNA is in them. They don't even know when they're expressing these type of attitudes. It's already in them. And the African has had to forgive the European on numerous occasions for dehumanizing them, taking all the human rights, forcefully going with their wives, executing the wives' husbands, and turning Africans against each other so that they are able to, in more cases than one, Mr. Jones, carry on their way of living. The whole world was built by Africans. If you really look at it, the whole world was built by Africans. And I keep saying this, and I say this to Mr. Nygaard a lot, and he says it too. If Mr. Nygaard was living in the time of slavery, Mr. Nygaard would have probably been lynched or hung just like any other black man because of what he stands for.
Because of his benevolence.
Not only that, Mr. Nygaard, is my belief. He believes with an equal opportunity, there's no difference in the species.
Interesting.
You see? Because I'm sure you know that Mr. Nygaard is a young man, but, you know, let's hope he lives for as long as God allows him.
Back to these judicial review matters.
Yeah.
They're not being dealt with speedily.
No. My whole thing with that is lawyers make money by the hours. And there's a delay for this, a delay for that, a delay for the next thing. If you would only understand, Mr. Jones, Louis Bacon has sued the government of the Bahamas. And he's hiding behind Save the Base, which is might as well say Save the Bay's real estate company, because all the bays they save, they turn it into protected areas. That means local people who used to fish there can't fish there no more. Used to snorkel there, you might could do that. But what is really going on is they're using the courts to slow down the process of Mr. Nygaard rebuilding his residence. The judicial review in the case of Peter Nygaard, I'm not speaking about judicial review in general. There are two different sets of judicial review. There's the constitutional reform, that's a judicial review. Then they want the whole process that has worked all these years to be, they challenging the process. And they cannot change it because it has to be constitutionally changed. And it works. But it doesn't work for them, Mr. Jones. Louis Bacon and his cronies want Peter Nygaard out of Lightfoot Key. They are not the government of the Bahamas. I'm calling on our government to please take a good look at this gentleman. This gentleman is a person who, for all intents and purposes, has his own agenda. He wants to see the Bahamas looking like this, but he won't wear a Bahamian flag. He won't support national issues in terms of sporting events, what could show, and cultural events. When do you see Louis Bacon? He's leading from behind again. That's what he said. And ladies and gentlemen, anybody who lead from behind could come out front in anything. They could come up, dress up as Spider-Man. They could come out, dress up as Batman. They come out, dress up in the Rasta wig as a Rasta man. Or they could come out, dress up like a Ku Klux Klan. How we can know who they are when they stand in the back? You get what I'm saying? And I call on the Attorney General, who has also been sued, to put an end to the playing around with court cases. There are court cases that have far more merit than this trivial fight that Bacon is trying to put on the government's head because they are going through the process of permitting the rebuilding of Mr. Nygaard's house. It is an evil thing to do because I often refer to this, Mr. Jones. What Louis Bacon is trying to perpetrate in the Bahamas is as if JCN God forbid, had a catastrophe and the building was in ruins, it would be like ZNS or Cable Bahamas saying to the town planning committee, don't let him build it back. And that's what's going on. It's an abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Christmas time. This is the time for giving. This is the time for love. This is the time for sharing. Let us share our love for the Bahamas, that like Peter Nygaard and his children have for the Bahamas, because you ask his children, where did he call home? Where is home? The Bahamas. Nygaard Key.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
There is a move to, well, Mr. Nygaard told me some time ago that Bacon tried to buy his land and he turned him down.
That is the major issue right there. The master race isn't used to being told no. And you know how they could get. Well, if I can't get it one way, I'll get it another way. And that is what is happening. Mr. Jones, what is so perplexing about this, right? Why? To show you how egotistical this man is. He will spend millions of dollars on lawyers just to slow Mr. Nygaard down.
Or to frustrate the government.
Or to frustrate the government. And as rich as he is, where's the scholarships? What is he building? He is breaking the Bahamas down. It is time for us to put the pirate out. He's breaking us down. All this time, the Attorney General and all these lawyers for the government and different private parties are spending doing this case, Mr. Jones. You know what happens? They could be dealing on other matters that have more relevance.
Yes.
95 to 99% of the Bahamians cannot go in the back of Life of Key.
Yes.
Because one, the roadblock. Two, you need an ID and then you go through the servant's gate. Three, if you ain't going to do something in the back there, they don't want you in the back there. But they could drive through our neighborhoods.
Having said that, there has been quite a bit of talk about what Nygaard has been trying to do to the land behind his house in terms of accretion and all of the rest.
Mr. Jones, you
and so while you are here, let's speak a little bit about that.
Mr. Jones, I showed you that Louis Bacon's house has a channel, and then you cut into where the building is. It's covered. That's where his marina is.
So his boat can go directly under his house.
And
that was cut apparently without permission.
Without permission. Right? So, when they dredge out, they throw the rocks on Nygaard's side. So the start piling up. All Nygaard do is put the rocks in these little nettings, like lobster traps, you know, the old style. And he was able to, now that he got permission and was permitted to dredge out a little inlet for his boat that doesn't run under his house. See, the problem here is Louis Bacon is a shadow guy. he likes to lead from behind. So if we run in a race, what Louis Bacon saying is, in order to win the race, you got to come last. You see what I'm saying? You lead from the front. The leader of the race is the one in behind, Mr. Jones. That's what he wants us to believe. A leader could lead from no, sir. Can you lead from behind, Mr. Jones?
Yeah.
You understand where I'm coming from?
I mean, you're one of the few people who saw him. I've never seen him in person.
I've seen him. I've seen his brother.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of them.
But you see Peter Nygaard all the time on television. You see him at various events. Is Bacon a part of the community?
He is a part of the 1% that don't want nobody around them. He's a part of a community, but he's an isolationist. He's a hunter. He likes to hunt. He likes to kill things. And that's what he's trying to do.
What you mean, kill things?
I know that one of the things that the police had problems with was how many rifles he had along the wall and how many animal skin mats he had. He's a hunter, like a safari hunter.
I see.
He's a killer.
Killing animals and birds and things.
So all the people who enslaved the base, who are animal lovers, the CEO of Save the Base got a house with a bear skin, a lion skin, because he got a tiger over there, he got a zebra over here. If I lie, I die. And he has the guns, and oh yeah, I shot that with this gun and these some big guns. I am not lying, Mr. Jones. Why would we want this man in our country? Why?
No, but fine, the man can be in your country, but the man should not frustrate
the government and the judiciary.
Yes.
And that is the issue here.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we brought in a special prosecutor to call it swift justice, right? Where's Peter Nygaard's swift justice? Why shouldn't he be allowed to rebuild his house? Because it already had a permit.
Okay, let's take this final break on our program. Vivian Whylly is here today. We'll come right back.